this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call roll.
Davis.
Aye.
Flora.
Here.
Inman.
Here.
Pring.
Here.
Quinn.
Here.
Rothrock.
Here.
Schlossmacher.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Before we get started with our agenda, I understand we have some high school students in our audience. I would like them to stand, tell us your name and the school that you attend and what brings you to our meeting, please. Let's start over here.
Alright, cool. My name is Oscar Aguilar, and I'm here with my friends from Shawnee Mission North because I took this last year and they came with me last year. We're here Oregons, and I'm here for government.
Yeah, I'm Juan Lobo, and I came from government class. This is the second to last meeting.
My name is Chloe, and I'm also here for government. And I'm just convenient, so that's why I'm like here. I'm Anna Aloy. I'm here from Shawnee Mission North, and I'm here for government. I also live in Ward 2, and I know Nick. He comes to Caribou a lot, and I work at Caribou.
I'm Oscar. I'm also from Shawnee Mission North, and also here for government.
I'm Michaela Sutton. I'm from Shawnee Mission West.
I'm Adriana Sena. I'm from Shawnee Mission North, and I'm also here for government.
I'm Nick, and I'm also here from Shawnee Mission North.
I'm Dylan, I'm here from Shawnee Mission North for AP Government.
My name is Bailey Burgard, also here for AP Government class, 87 hours.
I'm Ryan Taylor, and I'm also here for Government, Shawnee Mission North.
I'm Gabby Guzman. I'm from Shawnee Mission North, and I'm here for job.
I'm Isabel Ehlers. I'm here from Shawnee Mission North, and I'm here for government.
Carol Peck, Shawnee Mission North, here for government.
It's Ramos Cervantes. Shawnee Mission North, and from government.
Well, thank you all for being here. Before we get started this evening, I would like to welcome any residents or members of the public who are joining us. There will be opportunities to talk at various times on our agenda this evening to address the council. However, if you were here on a specific agenda item, there will come a time for you to talk at that time. But if you have comments or questions on an issue that's not on the agenda, we will have an open time for that also. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. All right, we don't have any public hearings this evening. So next item up is special presentations. We have one from Consolidated Fire District number 2. It is not Chief Lopez. You can come forward and state your name and tell us your business, please.
First of all, Chief Lopez, I apologize for not making a meeting. He had another engagement he had to deal with.
He's going to Mexico.
Yes, that's his engagement.
That's not another engagement. It's fun.
Well, hopefully. I'm Doug Yonke. I'm Battalion Chief for Consolidated Fire District number 2. And I'm here to just provide you guys some information on a fire we had in your city. On March 31st, we had a fire at 5640 Riggs, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3:09 in the afternoon. Upon our original truck's arrival, it had heavy involvement of fire on the front side of the house. It had extended into the first and second floor, front side of the residence. We had a total of 6 engines, 3 trucks, 2 medic units, 3 chiefs, and about 40 personnel there putting it out. The original call provided there may be somebody trapped inside the house. That's why we had as many units as we did. They had heavy smoke that they could see from the station, so they called for a second alarm assignment. Nobody turned out to be inside the residence. We had no injuries, no casualties, fire or public. Fire was placed under control about 40 minutes after the original call and completely out about 15 minutes later. So fire was considered accidental, undetermined, but most likely caused by smoking cigarettes that were left somewhere underneath the deck area in the front. So, Any questions I can answer?
I just want to thank you. I had an opportunity, Tom's a friend of ours, I had an opportunity to go through the house with him, and you guys did an amazing job.
They did a nice
Just
job.
amazing. So
Thank you.
thank you so much.
We'll pass it on to the guys up here, Station 1. They got there quickly and got a good attack on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is a presentation related to the annual Arbor Day and a proclamation. So I would ask, this Arbor Day will be celebrated on Friday, April 27th. I would ask if Christy would come up and I will present her with this proclamation, and then she's going to tell us about the activities.
This was Christy.
I will never make that mistake again.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As the Mayor mentioned, we will celebrate Arbor Day next Friday, not this coming Friday, but Friday the 27th. We always do that. The Parks, Recreation, and Tree Commission do that with the Rushton second graders. And I believe we are scheduled to have good weather. I was home watching the news tonight, and we will walk those second graders down to Waterworks Park, where they have a tree that will be planted. They will be making medallions to hang on that tree to celebrate Arbor Day. They will hand those to the mayor. The mayor will hang them on the tree. He will also play a little bit of tree trivia with them. I'm sure you've been practicing, right?
Yeah. I'm reading up on my Arbor Day.
Awesome. And then they will all get an apple and then walk back up to the school. But also at our meeting next month, the 5th grade class at Rushton also participates in the Arbor Day poster contest. And this year from the City of Mission, the Rushton Elementary School, we had the state winner. So he will be here to accept his award, to get a framed picture of the picture that he drew and everything. There were over 1,000 pictures that were drawn that he was selected first place from. So that will be next month. But yes, Arbor Day, next Friday, 11 o'clock, Waterworks Park, and everyone is welcome to join. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item up is issuance of notes and bonds, and we do not have any notes and bonds on our agenda this evening. So we will move to consent agenda. Our consent agenda has 5 items this evening. If a council member, staff, or the member of the public wants any of these items removed from the consent agenda, this is the time to make that request. Is there anyone that wants anything removed from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Mayor, I move the city council adopt the consent agenda as printed, items 3A through 3E.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, please call roll.
Schleschmacher.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Kring.
Aye.
Flora.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next is community committee reports. If anybody has any questions regarding our community committees, you may ask staff or bring it up under new business. Item number 4, this is what I was talking about earlier. This is public comments on items that are not on the agenda this evening. Does anybody, a member of the public, want to make a comment about any topic that is not on the agenda this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on. Tonight we have 2 items from our Planning Commission. Ms. Seitzman, please provide an overview on the first one, and then she will provide the overview, then we will have the applicant developer have an opportunity to make a brief presentation, and then we will take a public comment. So first up is the Tidal Wave Auto Wash Preliminary Site Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Council. Tonight before you is the Tidal Wave Auto Wash Preliminary Site Plan, which is Planning Commission Case 1711. The subject property is currently developed as a gas station with underground storage tanks, fuel pumps, pump canopy, and a small building. It's currently zoned CP2B, or Planned Retail and Service District, and is located in Block Y of the West Gateway Form-Based Code overlay district, as well as within the Johnson Drive Design Guidelines area. The applicant and owner, Steve Black, is requesting site plan approval for redevelopment of the site into an automatic car wash facility to be owned and operated by Tidal Wave. The proposed development includes 2 buildings. One building is a 2-story, 6,699 square foot building fronting along Johnson Drive to the north of the site. The other is a 3,200 square foot building containing an automatic car wash tunnel along the south side of the property. The ground floor of the north building would contain parking stalls containing vacuums for use by car wash customers and a small office. The second floor of the north building would contain offices and storage areas, and a proposed car wash use is an allowed use in this district. The Planning Commission conducted a hearing on their March 26, 2018 meeting. They received public comments. In support of the project, no comments in opposition were received. And then they proceeded to vote 8-0 to accept that all of the required findings of fact would be met through compliance with 12 conditions which they placed on their approval. Those 12 conditions overlap a little bit. There were 3 conditions relating to exterior materials, 2 conditions relating to site improvements like trash enclosures and retaining walls. There were 3 comments relating to a landscape plan and public streetscaping, 2 comments regarding a median break in the drive entrance aisle, 1 comment regarding a meeting with the Sustainability Commission, which is still pending. All of those conditions that were placed as part of, or recommended to be placed as part of the Planning Commission recommendation to you tonight would need to be addressed with the submission of the final site plan. Just a little bit about process. As you know, site plans are usually a 2-step process. The first step being a preliminary site plan, the second step coming back with a separate application for final site plan. So like I said, all of those conditions that were placed, if upheld, would need to be addressed with that second step or with the final site plan. And that concludes staff.
Thank you. Does the applicant wish to make a presentation?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I did hear you use the word brief when you asked if we had any comments, so I'm going to do everything I can to make this as brief and painless for both of us, or all of us, as I possibly can. My name is Paul Sheppers, and I am the attorney for the applicants of this development plan, Stephen Block and his company, Block Real Estate Services. Mr. Block's here with us tonight. This gentleman right there, with distinguished gray hair. Also with us is our representatives from Tidal Wave. We have the Tidal Wave principal for Kansas City Market, Petty Harden. He's here with us, along with Tidal Wave's consultant, Thomas Wells. And we also have a Tidal Wave attorney, Sandra Watts, who I'm sure some of you know from her experiences here. I'm not going to go into great detail about the somewhat arduous path that led us here today. This application dates back to early 2017. We did have a little bit of difficulty navigating the nuances of the form-based code, but I think we've, with working with the staff, have overcome those and given our full intent to satisfy all the conditions attached to the Planning Commission's unanimous approval of our plan. I believe we will end up with something that the city and all of us can be proud of. If I could go just briefly through some history of the site, if we could go to the first couple slides. This is the area of the site in purple here, 6501 Johnson Drive. I'm sure you're all familiar with it, fairly prominent location along Johnson Drive. It has formerly been used as a gas station. I remember, I'm old enough, grew up in Roland Park to remember the days when it was a Vickers station. And it was most recently used as a Valero gas station and convenience store. The last reliable operator that occupied the site closed business operations in 2015. Since that time, we did have a temporary operator who forgot to pay rent, and so he didn't last very long, and it's now been vacant, completely vacant and inoperative since 2017. So if we could go to the next couple slides, this is obviously something you're probably familiar with. That's a picture of the front of the existing structures. The plan calls for this structure, the tanks underneath, the pumps, and the canopy to all be removed. And that will be done without any problem. This is the view from the back. And then the next slide is the view to show you the precipitous drop-off on the south boundary of the property, which basically puts this site kind of on an island. It's not really suitable to be combined with other sites in that area, so it really does have to be something that functions in and of itself independent of any operations in the vicinity of the site. The plans that we have involve the construction of a car wash, a new automatic car wash that the purchasers of the site will build. Tidal Wave, as Mr. Wells will tell you and Mr. Harden will tell you, well-respected company nationwide, and they came to us and we were thrilled, that is Block Real Estate Services, Steve Block and myself, with the proposal that they made to purchase the site and their plans for the site, because we just thought it was a fantastic use of this particular property. Beginning in early 2017, Tidal Wave and the Block Company has been working with the staff to try to develop a plan that we'd all be proud of. The first issue that came up in that process was, of course, dealing with the form-based code. Initially, the folks at Tidal Wave envisioned this site as being one that's typical of Tidal Wave operations, with the automatic car wash tunnel, vacuums, and a kiosk that you pay, and a traffic pattern in which the cars navigate around and outside the operation. Well, we learned that the form-based code calls for the construction of a two-story structure that fronts Johnson Drive. And so even though it's not necessary to the car wash operations, in order to comply with the spirit of the form-based code, this two-story structure you see was designed to front Johnson Drive. And the beauty of this structure is that even though it's not integral to car wash operations, it will be occupied on day one on the second floor with the Tidal Wave Divisional Headquarters offices. The area obviously, well not obviously, but as you can see, the ground floor is going to be used for car wash, not car wash stalls, but for stalls that cars exiting the car wash can pull into and then vacuum out their vehicles. The car wash tunnel, actually here's a little better picture of this two-story structure. And you can just see barely the car wash tunnel tucked behind the two-story structure here, so that cars passing up and down Johnson Drive won't necessarily see the car wash structure. They'll know it's there if they're going to get their car washed. These are typical examples of the materials which are going to be used on the exterior, and we are committed, as is recited in the conditions attached to the Planning Commission's approval, to applying these elements of the exterior structure in the requisite percentages called for by the form-based code. We had some trouble with making compliance with the form-based code because we thought we were home free once we agreed to put the two-story structure up. We were then told that it was going to be necessary to dedicate a huge slice of the eastern portion of the site for a future extension of Walmart, which would have killed the project because that wouldn't have left enough room in order to negotiate the car wash operations. Working with Mr. Heaven, we got the city to agree that that would not be a requirement. so then we proceeded to the point at which we got our form-based grade that Mr. Klein and Core Development put together for us. Wasn't what we hoped it would be, and primarily the issue that we were unable to deal with in terms of Mr. Klein's approach to the form-based code grade card was with respect to this structure, the two-story structure. Mr. Klein decided that that should be characterized as a parking garage rather than an office building with retail on the bottom floor. And we didn't agree with that. And consequently, we retained Mr. Dave Olson, who I think some of you may also be familiar with from his work on the development directly southwest of our site. And he did his own form-based code grade card, which I have here.
It was included in the city.
That's in the pack.
City council.
Well, there is, let me give you the slightly revised version because the one that we presented to the Planning Commission had a couple typos in it. So at the end of this, I'll make sure that the new form-based code Olson score gets in the record. And we got a 91 from Mr. Olson, which is a passing score. But nevertheless, because the core development score was below passing, we proceeded to submit our preliminary development plan as it would be done in the ordinary course of business outside the context of the form-based code. We got that unanimous approval from the Planning Commission, and I believe that they were very thorough in their analysis of the nature of our operations, how we were, if not technically in compliance with all applicable provisions of the form-based code, we certainly were in compliance with the spirit of the code. And depending upon your approach or your subjective view, I think we got a passing score on the form-based code. I'll wrap it up pretty quick because I think I may be wearing out my welcome here. But if you could flip forward a couple of slides to the site plan. This will be the site plan. Cars are going to be coming in off Johnson Drive. Now I should add that as part of our application for the preliminary development plan approval, we commissioned Murray Roads firm, the survey firm, BHC Roads, and they've done a very extensive traffic study which proves that the presence of our car wash, and given the two-lane queue that goes into the car wash tunnel, that we won't pose any problems with traffic congestion in front of our car wash on Johnson Drive. So we've completed a very thorough traffic study to show that this is going to fit very well in with the traffic patterns here in this vicinity of Johnson Drive. What's the next slide? Again, that's the pictures I've already showed you. I think I've got that pretty well covered. So in summary and in conclusion, let me just point out that our plan will eliminate, can we go back to the very first slide? Eliminate this, it can only be an eyesore. It can only be properly characterized right now as an eyesore on a very prominent portion of Johnson Drive. So we've got a choice between this and this, which I think is no choice at all. In addition, our plan is going to bring additional property tax revenue to the city, because obviously the value of the property, once improved, will be more than what it is now. We're going to bring sales tax revenue into the city of Mission because retail sales of car wash operations are taxable, and I think 1.6 cents of every dollar spent at the car wash will end up in the coffers of the city of Mission. There are, I should emphasize, no incentives being provided to tidal wave to change this to this. We're not asking for any kind of tax breaks. And I just can't imagine that anyone could objectively look at that and look at this and come away thinking that this is anything but a great benefit and a boon for the city of Mission, Kansas. And with that, if any of you have any questions about the form-based code aspects of our plan, Mr. Olson's here to answer any questions you might have. But I should also now turn it over to Peggy Harden, who can tell you a little bit about the history of tidal wave so that you can be comfortable that they're going to be a very fine addition and a good neighbor here to the city of Mission.
Thanks, Paul. Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you all so much for having us. We'll definitely respect your time and will not get long-winded. I'd also like to thank, like you have, the high school district coming out tonight, government class. That's pretty impressive on a Wednesday night to come out and spend the night with us. I hope you may learn something and have some takeaways. So try to stay awake and take some notes. Very impressive. I would like to go through the slides if I could. I think the first slide might be the company objectives, Austin project, one of the company history. Tidal wave, we first started washing cars in '04, and so over a 14-15 year period, we've opened up 35 locations throughout the country. Our Mission location would be number 36. We're very well recognized in the industry as being a national player. There's a Modern Car Care is a industry standard magazine that rates auto spa facilities throughout the country each year. So there's about 26,000 car washes nationwide of this type, conveyorized car washes. And Tidal Wave, thankfully, we continue to be ranked in the top 50 in the country, so we're real proud of that, being recognized. We have been in the SBA's Business of the Year back in Georgia about 10 years ago. We definitely want to be, not when people think car wash, they think grungy, dirty, stigmatized car wash. We like to say we're an auto spa, but not just that. We want to be not a pretty car wash or a pretty auto spa or an attractive business. We want to be the most attractive business in the community, not just the most attractive car wash facilities. So our standards have already been very high over the years. The form-based code, and what you see here is taking it to a level that we've never jumped across the bar this high, and this will be the nicest wash facility we've ever built. So we've got big plans for making our regional offices here. We've got about 6 other locations under development in the metro area. With this being our regional headquarters, we're very excited about that. We are very clean, green, and easy service to use. We do recycle a lot of our water, about 85% of our water. So we look forward to, one of the conditions was meeting with the Sustainability Commission. We definitely got that list of items. We've gone over that extensively and have a meeting in the morning with those folks. So we look forward to seeing what we can do to meet a lot of that criteria and hopefully exceed some of the things we may have done in the past. Our locations, as you'll see, are very well maintained. We do a lot of landscaping where we can, a lot of quality building materials. We kind of have a standard. We've looked at Chick-fil-A and kind of benchmarked from them as far as the way their facilities are kept, with the landscape and the personnel, the training, the level of service. You may not love the Chick-fil-A sandwich or love their waffle fries, but it's hard to deny that their service is excellent, and the way they run their facilities is very professional. So that's kind of our objective. We are open 7 days a week. We talked about the recycled water. An alternative to using the professional car wash is maybe to wash your car in your driveway. And if you were to do that, you'd have a water hose. You'd be using a lot of water running down the storm sewer, as well as whatever soap and chemicals that you might have used. So by using a professional car wash, we capture all of that water, we treat that water, and then we recycle that water. So it's a lot more green friendly, I would say. We do treat all the water, like we talked about before, it goes into the sanitary sewer system. So, we're definitely very involved in the community. We partner with the 501c organizations, and our founder, actually, my partner's got a special needs child who's 26 years old now and has been wheelchair bound most all of his life, so he's definitely into charities and special needs. So on the 3rd Friday of each September, we do a big fundraiser nationwide at all our locations, and we don't just donate profits or percentage of profits. We donate every dollar that comes into the wash. We promote it heavily, and every single dollar that we bring in that day goes straight to a charity of our choice and of the community's choice at that particular location. The flow of the car wash, Paul talked about a minute ago. I'll be glad to just point you through it if anybody wanted me to. Otherwise, I'll answer any questions you might have, or can let our next guy, Thomas Wells, go for just a minute, whatever you guys would like. Yes, sir.
Let's hold a presentation.
Thomas, will you from here? Would y'all you want me to run through and show you a little bit about the flow of the property, or y'all already can understand that?
That's what I want to do.
Okay, what? Okay, good. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for your time this evening. Give you just a brief overview of the site. You know, as Paul mentioned earlier, there are two driveways there near the existing median break, and we've been working with our neighbor, Mr. Ben Bennett. That will be consolidated in one driveway, so hopefully that'll help alleviate existing traffic issues trying to exit his site. But that will serve as our primary entrance, and then it will come into a pay station, kiosk, canopy, kind of in the lower right portion of the site. But there's also, as one of the conditions from the Planning Commission, is accessibility from that entrance lane into the wash portion of the site for access back over to what would be the office, training, and storage on the second floor of the two-story building up front. Then the actual wash tunnel itself is located on the southern portion of the site. Then cars circulate through it to an exit lane on the west end of the site, or they can circulate back into one of the vacuum stations located on the interior or on portions of the two-story up front. So that's kind of an overview of the site. You know, the two-story mid-rise up directly adjoining Johnson Drive, and then the car wash tunnel itself located on the southern portion of the site. So again, be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
So our applicants' presentations are done? Okay. I would like to open it up now for any public comment on this issue. Anybody, member of the public, want to come up and talk about this? All right, seeing none, then I would entertain a motion.
Mayor?
We'll have discussion after the motion, please.
Mayor, I move the City Council uphold the recommendation of the Planning Commission for the approval of the tidal wave auto wash preliminary site plan at 6501 Johnson Drive with the conditions as outlined.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, so now it's time for discussion. Any questions? Danny?
I have a question. Where are we on the traffic? You said they've done a traffic study. When will we get the results of the traffic study prior to the final plan?
The traffic study is complete. It's included in our application, and I believe that the staff has a copy of it that they'd be happy to share with you. I have only one copy that I brought tonight, but it's extensive.
Well, I read through it. I mean, I've gone through this for 4 hours today outside the room reading it before, and it's very well put together, so I knew I didn't have it tonight.
If I would be happy to provide extra copies to the staff. I'd be happy to give you mine if you'd like it.
That's a good staff. Thank you.
But it's 9 pages, and it was thoroughly done with spotters on and calculations and things that I don't really understand.
Okay. Mr. Davis.
Mr. Harden, I guess, would be the question that I'd like to direct. In the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting, there was discussion about ownership. Mr. Murphy had responded indicating that he's going to be the owner of the operation once.
I am the owner, yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I'm the 81% owner. My partner that I mentioned a minute ago is the other 19%.
Okay, that's what I was
Two of us will be sole owners, yes, sir.
And is this a franchise?
It is not.
It is not. Okay. There are 6 other locations in town in this area, is that
and under about the same stage of development, yes, sir.
So not fully
yet.
Yes.
I just had a question, and it might be for you, about the remediation of the site. If you could talk a little bit about your plans for that. I know you said removing the tanks, so I was wondering environmentally what else can go into that.
We're going to comply with all federal requirements that, and believe me, there are a lot, that involve the removal of tanks used for petroleum products. And that is an obligation that I believe the Block Real Estate Company has to prepare the site. But you can rest assured we're not going to be allowed to proceed by the feds unless we fully comply with all their remediation requirements.
I did want, the BHC Roads traffic study is included in the council packet. It doesn't have a page number on it, it's immediately following the GBA report, but it is included there.
I don't have a question. I have a comment. I know that the form-based code has given you difficulty in terms of developing this project. The form-based code is really designed to have retail at the bottom level, and I guess the dispute is that you're counting vacuuming as retail, but essentially it's not reusable for future purpose. And one of the ideas of form-based code is that the building could actually be reused for retail with bays. They're basically open bays, is that correct?
The bays, I believe, are divided. They're dividers that separate one stall from the next. But I would quibble with you on whether that can be repurposed at some point down the road into retail. It would just be a matter of...
But it's not enclosed, and it's not the 40-foot deep. It's not 40-foot deep as the form-based code requires.
Well, the form-based code doesn't require mid-rise structures to be 40 feet deep. The form-based code requires parking garages to be 40 feet deep. So I think that there isn't a 40 feet deep requirement for a mid-rise structure as is the case with our structure, office buildings on top and retail. And I consider it retail, and Mr. Olson considered it retail for at least this reason, because in order to be able to access those vacuums, you got to pay the fee to get your car washed. Now, you don't have to pay an additional fee for vacuum, but it is a payment that you have to make in order to use those vacuum stalls. If by chance, and I don't expect this to happen, and Tidal Wave decided to close their operations, it is certainly feasible to close off the back entrances that cars are going to use to reach those stalls, and then be able to divide it up into very small or one large retail operation on the bottom floor of the structure. So I really think it could conceivably be repurposed for retail in the future.
Any other questions or discussion?
I just had one comment. I appreciate, regardless of that this is coming in front of us as a preliminary site plan outside the form-based code, I appreciate your attempts to apply with the intent of the form-based code. And I think that's important in evaluating this project. And just wanted to say that I think consideration of this project shouldn't necessarily be seen as an open door to other projects not complying with the form-based code. I think here you've shown the intent to comply.
Believe me, we worked real hard to do that.
All right, any question, discussion? Seeing none, I would call the roll, please.
Davis.
No.
Schlossmacher.
Aye.
Flora.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Kring.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right.
We'll go to work on our final plan. Thank you very much for your time, and I apologize for trying your patience.
Good luck with the Sustainability Commission.
Well, we've got that on our calendars, Mr. Schlossmacher.
All right, next on our agenda is the Mark Way mixed-use development preliminary site plan. Danielle?
Mr. Mayor. Again, before you tonight is another preliminary site plan. This is for the Mark Way mixed-use development, and it's Planning Commission case 1708. The City Council, as you recall, at your February 18th, 2018 meeting, voted to remand this case to the Planning Commission for reconsideration of height, density, and setback deviations. The applicant did submit revisions to the December 18th, 2017 plan, making adjustments to the overall height in feet, the number of dwelling units, and the massing of the building. The current version results in only 2 of the original 8 planned district deviations being necessary, those being stories and lot area per dwelling. Overall, the project remained a 4-story building with the same mix and arrangement of uses. The Planning Commission at their March 26, 2018 meeting reconsidered the proposed height, density, and setback deviations within the code as requested by you, as well as the elimination of some of the originally requested deviations. The Commission voted 8-0 to adopt the suggested findings of fact and recommendations of staff as contained in the staff report and recommend approval of the preliminary site development plan for this project with 5 conditions. Those 5 conditions related to the deviations that were being requested for height and to minimum lot area. Also a condition related to the final traffic study and final stormwater drainage plans, reserving the right to make additional comments on those final plans, and a 5th condition relating to addressing light pollution from the project by the Planning Commission at the time of final site development plan. That concludes staff report.
Okay. Next, would the applicant like to make a presentation?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. My name is Todd Howard. I'm a project architect for the Marway development with Clockwork Architects, and I'm presenting this project tonight in the absence of Christian Arnold, who is the developer and lead architect for the project. I'd like to thank the mayor and the city council for your time tonight and allowing us to present the project. Start with the first slide, please. So the City of Mission needs more residents to support the existing businesses. Walkable neighborhoods require a critical mass of residents to financially support service retail. This slide and diagrams show housing densities, multiple different housing densities, starting on the left, single-family homes at 4 to 10 dwelling units per acre, moving to townhomes at 20 to 40 dwelling units per acre, and then apartments at 50 to 100 units per acre. And we need enough residents and visitors to support retail and services, which would be considered a critical mass. And to achieve that, we'd like to target 40 to 50 dwelling units per acre. By not having the higher density in the City of Mission, we believe that is one of the reasons that there are empty storefronts along Johnson Drive. Our original submission proposed a density of 88 units per acre. Our revised submission, which removed a story, proposed a density of 70 units per acre. And our current submittal has been reduced to 54 units per acre, which was a 39% reduction from our original submission. Next slide, please. The Metropolitan Research Center University prepared a study for the Kansas City area marketing trends for our changing neighborhoods. Growth in households from 2010 to 2040. 87% of growth will be households without children, 54% of growth will be single-person households, 50% of all growth will be rental housing. And housing preferences from 2010 to 2040, 50% of people would prefer to be able to walk to work or shops, and only 10% live in neighborhoods where that's possible. So this study reinforces that higher housing density is needed to support walking to work or to shops. Next slide, please. We've prepared a study to show what compliant density, Mission zoning compliant density would look like on the existing Martway site. Leaving the existing parking lots in place, the study shows 3 buildings that would be 3 stories apiece with 6 units per floor. The existing site area is 1.667 acres, and the Mission Code has an allowable zoning density of 35 units per acre, and this site would allow a maximum of 58 units under that code. This site plan demonstrates a compliant garden apartment density of 3 3-story buildings with a total of 54 multifamily units. Any developer can purchase pre-made plans for a 3-story wood frame walk-up garden apartment. The end result would be no different than the Mission Hill apartments across the street, and we feel that the City of Mission and its residents deserve better. Next slide, please. We recently obtained a white paper study prepared by the Urban Land Institute in conjunction with the National Multi-Housing Council, the Sierra Club, and the American Institute of Architects. The study looks at common myths that surround higher density developments and debunks the myths with statistics. Myth: higher density developments lower property values in surrounding areas. Fact: no discernible difference exists in the appreciation rate of properties located near higher density developments and those that are not. Some research even shows that higher density developments can increase property values. The precise value of real estate is determined by many factors, and isolating the impact of one factor such as high dwelling density can be difficult. Although location and school districts are the most obvious determining factors of property value, location within a community and size and condition of the existing houses in the neighborhood also affect value. Concerned residents should demand high-quality development in their communities while understanding density and adjacent property values are not inversely related. Next slide, please. Myth: higher density developments create more regional traffic congestion and parking problems than low density developments. Fact: high density development generates less traffic than low density development per unit. It makes walking and public transit more feasible and creates opportunities for shared parking. The reason that higher density developments make for more walkable neighborhoods and bring together the concentration of population required to support public transportation. The result is that residents in higher density development housing make for fewer and shorter trips than those living in low density housing. Apartment residents average 6.3 trips per day compared to the 10 trips per day averaged by residents of low housing density communities. As part of the preliminary plan and conditional approval, we will submit a revised traffic study which will show a reduction in traffic from our previously compliant submittal due to our reduced unit count that we're going to review. Next slide, please. Myth: no one in suburban areas wants high density development. Fact: our population is changing and becoming increasingly diverse. Many of the households now prefer higher density housing even in suburban areas. A growing number of Americans are redefining their American dream. They are seeking a more convenient and vibrant lifestyle and are looking to the suburbs. Today's real demographic and lifestyle changes are inspiring developments that offer walkable, bikeable, and more dynamic communities that put residents closer to shops, offices, and parks. Next slide, please. So just to give you a little bit of project program information, we'd like to boost the public investment that's already been made in the surrounding area with the Rock Creek Trail, City Hall, Aquatic Center, and Community Center. And we're offering a mixture of business and residential through a mixed-use project. The project would be walkable, residents would be able to easily access downtown, and the Rock Creek and Park behind offer a great transition to the residential houses to the south. Next slide, please. We are being sensitive with our site design. The Marway project is in a floodplain, and our first floor would be elevated out of that floodplain. We also would allow fire department access throughout the site. The current existing buildings are in the floodplain, and they're adjacent to the property line, so we would be providing relief that is not currently had with the existing buildings. Site-sensitive design. So this slide just shows some spot elevations that have been obtained off of Johnson County Ames, which is a public record. Anybody can go on that site and obtain spot elevations for their properties. And this will lead to a later site section and grading study, but we just wanted to highlight that the elevation of our project is at 960, and to the south, the residences, their pad elevations range from 979 to 984, so there's approximately 20 to 24 feet of grade change from north to south along the site to the neighborhood along 61st Street. These are revised elevations. We propose the high-quality facade materials and energy-efficient glazing. There's been some concerns from the neighborhood along 61st Street about light pollution, which we will address in the final planning submittal. All parking lot lights will be full cutoff lighting, so they'll have no direct uplighting. And then there's been some concerns about balcony lighting. We just want to make sure that they're going to be aware that those balcony lights would be shielded to reduce any direct glare and provide backlighting instead of forward-facing lighting. Our original submittal proposed a height of 67 feet. Our revised submittal that removed a story proposed a height of 56 foot 3 inches. And our current submittal, which is zoning compliant, has a height of 45 feet, which is an overall reduction of 22 feet from our original submittal. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is the site plan. There are 142 parking spaces provided on site, 5 ADA accessible and 1 van accessible parking spaces, which are on the west side of the site. The parking lot and building now meet the required zoning setbacks. There were previous deviations requested for those. So now we do have a buffer that has been placed around the perimeter of the properties on the east, west, and south sides. The building has been sited very tight along Marbury Street, which is a requirement of the Johnson Drive design guidelines, and it also provides a little bit more space and buffer to the residences from the south. Next slide, please. This is the ground floor plan. It shows about 6,000 square foot of office space and mixed use to support the higher density development. And this was a request that was made by the city in our initial discussions when programming the building. Next slide. This would be the second floor, so residential units here. Next slide. And the third and fourth floors, which dogleg to the south to maximize the site. Per request of Councilmember Flora, we have submitted revised 3D perspective renderings. If you toggle between this slide and the next slide, which was a previous submittal, if you want to go ahead and jump back and forth a little bit, this shows the reduction in height that's been made in 22 feet and removal of 1 story. Go to the next. And this is looking from the west along Martway, looking to the, this view is looking west. And if you can toggle between these two slides again, seeing the reduction in height, and also the building is now talking a little bit more into its context and relating to the existing 2- and 3-story buildings in terms of scale. Next slide. So we've also revised our composite views. So these are kind of mock images of the approximate building. This first view is taken from the north of the bank and the parking lot looking south. There's a pretty heavy tree line that's there. And if you look at the next slide, which was our previous submittal, the reduction in height now has the top of the building tucked below the tops of the tree lines. Next slide. So same from here. This is a view looking northwest from the City Hall and Aquatic Center parking lot. The building is barely peaking above the tree line, and if you look at the next slide, there was the previous, so we've pulled it down quite a bit. And then next slide. And this is a view looking north from a residence along 61st Street. The massing has been updated and been reduced, as you can see, looking at the next slide, with that reduction of height. We've also prepared a site section and grading study. So this section is taken in the parking lot on the west side of the site. So you're seeing the west facade on the left-hand side of the image, cutting through the Rock Creek into the tennis courts behind that, and then the residences along 61st Street. Again, these spot elevations were taken from Johnson County Ames, which are public record. At this point, the houses along 61st Street, the roofs of them are now taller than the roof of our building with the new proposed height. We also did a headlight study to make sure that there wasn't any direct glare coming from the site. So we parked a car in each of the 3 lots facing directly south and documented that. And this site section here that we're showing is, I would say, probably the most level of all of the locations, with the headlights being screened by the tennis courts, which have a mesh fabric in them. As we got to the center parking lot, that is where the shelter building is inside of the park, along with some pretty dense trees and some playground equipment, which is screening the lights. And then as we went to the east, furthest east lot, that is located directly behind the Aquatic Center, and that has a pretty heavily built up grade of probably approximately 20 feet where there was no headlights even in view from that area. We're also proposing a landscape screen along the south side of our site to help block any headlight glare coming from our site. Also, we've not received any complaints from the residents to the south in regards to any headlight issues from the current existing office buildings. And we've not heard of any complaints from the lights that are currently on the tennis court and the shelter buildings and the blinking lights on the playground equipment. I believe that the Planning Commission has also done a study of their own to visit the site and do the same thing that we have, and their findings were in line with ours. So to summarize my presentation, we've resolved and reduced the requested number, or the requested number of zoning deviations from 8 deviations to 2 deviations. The remaining deviations relate to density and number of stories, and there's been a lot of discussions around density. The fact remains that there are empty storefronts along Johnson Drive, and that is due to a lack of density. A typical approach that meets the zoning requirements would be a wood-framed 3-story walk-up apartment building with open stairways, which is what has been built in the city of Mission for years. Too much work has been put into making the city a great place to live, and to continue down the old and worn pathways is not a very good approach. The city of Mission deserves better, and we request your approval to proceed to final development. In closing, here's a testimony we received from one of our projects to help illustrate the type of communities we can create. Quote, "Christian, the building is such a source of calmness, comfort, and joy to those who live and work in it now, and I'd like to thank for many in the surrounding community as well. I find myself thinking more creatively and productively when I am here, a phenomenon I've never experienced in any other place that I've lived or worked. I hope that you and your family are enjoying this beautiful fall, and thank you once again for helping create my dream home." End quote, Heidi. I'd like to thank the mayor and the city council for your time tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time. Thanks.
All questions for now. Next up would be any members of the public who would like to speak on this please come up, state your name, address, and make your remarks.
Good evening, y'all. Aaron Wingert, 6220 West 61st Street. I've spoken to you before. I won't take much of your time tonight. Appreciate the opportunity to be here and re-review this project. We certainly recognize and appreciate Clockwork Architecture's Clockwork's movements in our direction as residents and neighbors, and we definitely recognize those. As I articulated to you all in email, I feel that the Planning Commission failed us in not giving any review to the matter of density. None. So I see that as problematic with the remand. I feel that density should have been discussed. I don't agree with the quote facts that were presented regarding property values in communities that have a higher density of apartments or rental units. The U.S. Census Bureau American Community Study absolutely contradict those quote facts that were just presented to you. As to adjacent properties, I can't substantiate that, but when we're talking zip code to zip code, higher density equals lower single family property values. That's something I want to see City of Mission addressing on a greater scale. And I think it flies in the, those statistics fly in the face of the desire for greater density in what has been a bedroom community. I think my neighbors will probably also agree. I'm going to walk over here, I hope you don't mind. This illustration, and correct me, sir, if I'm wrong, I presume that's a southern 61st Street house.
That's correct.
Okay, and I can't contest that. But I do want everyone to recognize there are north 61st Street houses that immediately abut the MS2 portion zone part of this project, where I think that light is a factor. And I do recognize the tennis court may provide some modicum of screening, but how permanent is that? I don't want to rely on 20-year-old, torn up, bad condition screening to shield my property, and specifically my neighbors to the east, from light pollution on this. And I'd like the council and the Planning Commission to consider some means of screening requirements for light from headlights specifically on those adjacent houses. Because I personally do think that is going to be an issue. So at least on those easternmost couple homes. Like I said, on the density, I would have liked to have seen greater review by the Planning Commission. I'm more than disappointed, as I said, on their lack of oversight on the matter of density. So we spent more time on hexavalent chromium in building materials than we did on density, and I see that as a little embarrassing. But like I said, we feel we're this close to having a really palatable project, and I think we're into the details now. Personally, that's my opinion. So appreciate your time. I'm going to sign my name here real quick. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Mary Ann Martins, and I live at 6200 West 61st Street. Mission for the last 24 and a half years. We had a day of spring earlier last week, and I spent an hour in the park, sitting in Shelter 1, which is adjacent to the tennis courts and is about 8 feet from the fence that abuts up to Rock Creek. And I watched kids play and babysitters and parents with their kids. And I heard some cars behind me. But in addition, from the office buildings, but in addition, I could even hear people on their cell phones from the office buildings. And so I sat there and I thought, I wonder what it's going to be like to hear cars coming and going for 90 apartments behind us. And so I think there's something to be said for just the general noise that's going to somewhat disturb, because an apartment is 24/7. It's not 8 to 5 like a building, an office building where people come and go just during the day. It's going to be people coming and going 24/7. And as far as the light pollution, where my house is, which is directly behind the parking lot of the credit union, we have a large amount of light pollution that even comes into our house in the kitchen window, dining room windows, and backyard porch. If it's coming from the Sylvester Powell Center or Mission Square and they pull down to Martway and turn to go west, it completely streaks across all of those windows in the dark at our house. And it doesn't happen with a low-slung car, it happens with an SUV or like one of the Mission trucks. Same way with the garbage disposal trucks. So it happens and it's there. And so I want you to be aware of, there are 3 houses that sit a lot lower than mine that are going to be more subjected to even the light pollution from an apartment with cars coming and going 24/7. It could be an issue. The other thing I have 2 questions on. I'd like to know the height of the new proposed 45-foot in comparison to the houses that are, the 3 houses that are adjacent to the park. The height comparison, the overall height comparison. And I would also like, on page 198, as far as irrigation, it says automatic irrigation is required for all streetscape trees. Which, does that mean just on the street side of Martway you have to irrigate, or is it the entire foliage? That's my other question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Christy, why don't we take that sign and stick it over there? Get answers.
Would you like me to respond to those questions?
Yes, please.
Sure. I mean, we have not documented the heights of the existing residences that are directly adjacent to the property, but any single-story residence would vary in height depending on the pitch of the roof, and approximately 20 to 25 feet tall. In regards to the irrigation, yes, it's a requirement of the City of Mission to irrigate along the public way for the streetscape improvements. So yes, that's where we would provide the automatic irrigation. We would not at this time provide any automatic irrigation to the rear of the site.
Anybody else have any comments they'd like to make, please?
My name is Crystal Yackel. Hello to the council and mayor. I'm a newer member to Mission, and I just wanted to pose a question to the council to think about. As a teacher at J.C. Herman High School in Kansas City, Kansas, many of my students and their parents work in Johnson County but live in Wyandotte County. Many of them would like to potentially live in Johnson County but cannot afford to do so. And having this housing could give that potential to them. And I just want you to think about, what does it mean to build community? Can a community allow for residents to live and work where they reside? And I think this could give potential to that. So, thank you.
Could you sign in, please?
Yes, is the sheet, I think it's, oh, sorry, thank you.
All right, anybody else have comments?
That they came back, they listened to what you all asked, they listened to what a lot of people audience asked for, and they worked on it, because they had 8 deviations before, if I remember the right number. Now we're down to 2. And one of those is how many stories compared to how many feet. Well, they've hit the feet thing, so I don't think the stories thing should matter. And part of the thing with the stories is that obviously they got to be elevated for the floodplain and for the retail as well. So I think they've done a really good job of working with us, and as was mentioned by the first speaker, of listening to what people said and really trying to work with this community. So this, I think, would be a great project for us. It's going to be right off of downtown. That density will help. That will help the businesses along downtown. And as you know, I'm a big proponent of our downtown business area, and I'd like to see those storefronts filled up. And that will help a lot with the people coming in. You know, getting a few more 100 people just a few blocks off of Johnson Drive. Thank you.
Sign in, please, Kevin. Anyone else would like to make comments? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the City Council uphold the recommendation of the Planning Commission for approval of the Martway Mixed-Use Development Preliminary Site Plan 6005 to 6045 Martway with conditions as outlined.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have discussion or questions?
I'd like to ask the applicant, if you would please, to confirm. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for the revisions that you did and the consideration that you gave for the concerns that have been expressed before. The one question that I would have is in relationship to the stipulation number 5 in terms of the lighting and pollution.
Yeah.
Would you entertain having landscape on the south side of the channel?
There's well, that's on city property,
Right,
so.
right, I understand. Would there be a possibility of coordinating with the city in terms of trying to create better screening if that were beneficial to the...
Absolutely, and there is already a screen proposed on the south side of our site, on the north side of Rock Creek, which is shown in the landscaping plan that was provided in the submittal. But yes, absolutely.
If I could tag on your question.
Yep.
There was mention of a photometric study.
Yes.
Are the results that you were talking about as a result of a photometric study?
No, they're not. That study has not been performed as of yet. Our civil engineer, that's part of our team, would provide that study with the final planning submittal.
And tell me what a photometric study is.
Yeah, so they're just going to analyze the lumens and outputs of the selected parking lot light fixtures and the balcony fixtures, show where that light is being concentrated, and to show that there's not any bleed coming off of the site.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or discussion?
I just had a comment. I was kind of frustrated that the Planning Commission didn't consider some of our requests, mainly to look in greater detail at the density, but I appreciate your comments here tonight, comments from the residents on where it now stands, and comments from our business community, and I'm now comfortable with that deviation and think it falls within our ordinances governing deviations and the intent of our zoning regulations.
Very good, thank you.
I agree with Solly. This has been a really difficult decision for me, and even coming in tonight, I wasn't sure where I was going to go with this, but hearing neighbors and your input has been really helpful, but I really want to push the lighting concern.
Sure.
I can't say enough. I really want to see a negotiation with the city and with you all to do something with landscaping, and my big concern are those neighbors over on the north side of 61st.
Absolutely. We're definitely sympathetic to that, and that will definitely be part of the final package that we provide. Yep.
I honestly think your presentation was the best.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
Coming forward. First of all, it incorporated a lot of our comments.
Right.
I think it was very concise. I think everything that we asked to be addressed has been addressed, and I really appreciate it.
Very good. Yeah, it's been a long road. Schematic design on this project started over a year ago. We've had soft presentations to the City Council, the Fire Marshal. We've had neighborhood work sessions. We've been to the Planning Commission 3 times now, and this is the 3rd review of the City Council. So, yeah, it's been a long road.
Debbie, you're just a data junkie.
Mr. Quinn.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to echo Ken's comments about the way you've addressed the concerns of the council and the residents. And I want to thank the residents that did voice their concerns and made these changes possible. Had they not come forward and made their statements about what they did and didn't like, probably wouldn't have seen these changes to the thing. That's going to be much better for the city of Mission and for that neighborhood. So, yeah, I want to thank you.
We agree, thank you.
Anyone else?
So I would just like to echo all of your echoes and tell you that I appreciate all of the hard work you and the residents and everyone has teamed up and put forth. I was on the fence as well, and still, I know that this is very important to many people, but along with the light pollution concern, I am still, I don't sit well with the density, and so for that reason, I will not be supporting this.
All right, anyone else?
I actually would like to, I got an email from one of the residents that lives nearby, and he's actually on our Sustainability Commission, guy by the name of Josh T. And I just wanted to read a little excerpt of his email. He had to be out of town, couldn't make it tonight, but he said, quote, "I moved to Mission because of the density and because of the continued growth of the Johnson Drive corridor, creating a walkable, lively, small downtown atmosphere. I'm excited about the prospects of the approved EPC apartment project next to the bar, and I'm also excited about this new Martway project. I think these projects will really improve our neighborhood experience with additional retail space and more residents to serve our local business community." And he's asking that we please vote to approve this Martway project. I just know he wanted me to mention that tonight because he couldn't be here. So.
All right. Any more discussion? Seeing none, please call for the vote.
Flora,
Aye.
Quinn,
Aye.
Inman,
Aye.
Kring,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Schlossmacher,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
Rothrock.
Nay.
Thank you, motion carries.
All right, moving on. Committee reports. Councilmember Schlossmacher, will you please provide a report on the Finance and Administration Committee?
Thank you, Mayor. We've got a couple items tonight on our Finance and Administration Committee report. I'll kind of summarize the three of them here, and then we have some separate motions. So in January, requests for proposals were issued for a new citywide phone system, surveillance camera system, and structured wiring of city facilities. Each of the RFPs received multiple responses, with staff interviewing the most responsive submissions from each project. Our city's current phone system was originally purchased in 2004. It's now outdated and has lived long past its useful life. Three companies were interviewed for the project, and ServiceMark Telecom is being recommended. The proposal for the new phone system includes design, installation, and a 5-year maintenance plan at a cost not to exceed $42,000. This new system will be more robust, addressing not only current but also future needs. Mission's surveillance camera system is an important component for our facilities in ensuring the safety of our residents and employees. The current surveillance camera system is also outdated and is functioning poorly. 3 companies were interviewed in RFP, and staff is recommending the proposal from Midwest Digital Systems. The new camera system will operate across the city's data network, allowing the city's police personnel access to the system from their desktop computers, in their vehicles, and remote access. This proposal also includes the development and installation of a TCP/IP-based surveillance system for all city facilities and a 5-year maintenance contract in an amount not to exceed $55,990. Approximately 62 cameras, both inside and outside of the various facilities, will be installed. With the purchase of a new phone system and a new surveillance camera system, another critical component of these projects is updated structured wiring. Some of the cabling currently at City Hall and Police Department is suspect, and that connections have been dropped or cabling is routed through a router instead of making a direct run back to the data closet. There's no structured cabling in place to support the recommended camera system. 2 firms were interviewed in response to this RFP, and staff is recommending a proposal from Office Products Alliance, who is familiar with their current wiring, and as part of their proposal will test all cabling, certify the new cabling once it's installed, label and document the location, and map it. As a part of this project, the existing data room in the City Hall Police Department will also be relocated. Total cost of this project is estimated at $48,600. Funds for these 3 projects were initially budgeted in 2016, and then again in 2017 in the amount of $226,000. However, due to staff turnover, time limitations, scope of these projects, and proper planning have resulted in staff taking a more deliberate, thoughtful approach to these projects. Consequently, proposals for these projects were not solicited until the beginning of this fiscal year. Funds for these technology upgrades are being carried in the general fund balance. The upgrades will be completed for a total estimated cost of about $146,590, resulting in a savings of more than $79,000 total project cost. So Mayor, I move the City Council approve an agreement with ServiceMark Telecom for the design, installation, and 5-year maintenance of an NEC phone system for the City of Mission in an amount not to exceed $42,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just like to make a comment. I think the staff did an amazing job on this deal. I'm thinking probably Brian, who's not here to accept that comment.
Yes. I would, and I'm sorry he couldn't be here this evening because he has spent a tremendous amount of time also working with Captain Kevin Self in the police department, but this was, it's absolutely critical to our operations, and so we certainly appreciate his time and effort in bringing this forward and significantly under budget.
Yeah, I would like to echo that. I mean, this is an over 30% cost savings estimate over what we budgeted back in 2016, so costs don't typically go down over a couple year period there either, so it's good work by the staff to help save some money.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, please call for the vote.
Inman.
Aye.
Flora.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Kring.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Schlesmacher.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Next we have item number 6B, a proposal for a new citywide surveillance camera system, which we've talked about. So Mayor, I move the City Council approve an agreement with Midwest Digital Systems for the development and installation of a TCP/IP-based surveillance camera system for all city facilities in an amount not to exceed $55,990.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I would like to mention in our previous discussion on this too, we also found out that we're going with a system that will allow us to potentially expand in the future. So if we see future needs, maybe cameras in certain parks or anything, this system's flexible enough to support that. So that was a nice thing.
All right. No further discussion. Please call for a vote.
Flora.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Kring.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Schlesmacher.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Last but not least, we have a proposal for structured wiring of our city facilities. So Mayor, I move the City Council approve an agreement with Office Products Alliance for the structured cabling of city facilities in an amount not to exceed $48,600.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, please call for a vote.
Davis.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Flora.
Aye.
Kring.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Schlesmacher.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
That concludes the Finance and Administration report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Schlesmacher. Next, we have our Community Development Report.
Mr. Mayor, there's nothing to report this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up is unfinished business. We do not have any unfinished business. We also, we do have two items of new business this evening. Our first is a change in the time of our upcoming 2018 budget work sessions. Ms. Smith will provide information on this item, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We're getting ready to publish the calendar for our upcoming 2019 budget process, and we, as you know, discuss the budget over the course of a series of work sessions and our committee meetings. So with the committee meetings starting at 6:30, we wanted to establish a consistent start time for the work sessions as well, just so it's easier for the public to remember and calendar if they want to attend and participate in this. So we're recommending that we approve the consistent start time of 6:30 p.m. actually for all of our 2019 budget work sessions.
Any questions on this? Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move the City Council approve a start time of 6:30 p.m. for all the 2019 budget work sessions.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Any public comments on that one?
Please come join us.
Hearing none, please call a vote.
Thomas.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schlesmacher.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Kring.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Flora.
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries.
All right, our second item of new business relates to an updated ordinance accepting the dedication of the right-of-way associated with the Mission Trails development on Johnson Drive. Ms. Smith.
Yes, thank you. So there was right-of-way that was dedicated as a part of the Mission Trails EPC project on Johnson Drive. Back in November of 2017, the council passed ordinance accepting that right-of-way. We were anticipating that the property would be purchased prior to the end of the year. That did not happen, and subsequent to that, there's also been a change in name of the development group, and the property has now closed, so there's a need for us to update that ordinance to keep sort of our records clean and essentially re-accept the dedication of the right-of-way. So no change in the legal description or the right-of-way being dedicated. This is just to make sure that we have a clear record going forward.
All right, I would accept a motion.
Mayor, I move the City Council adopt an updated ordinance accepting the dedication of right-of-way for the Mission Trails redevelopment as described.
Second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call roll.
Davis.
Aye.
Schlesmacher.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Flora.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Kring.
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries.
All right, next item on our agenda, comments from the City Council. This is an opportunity for comments from our council members. Does anybody have anything they would like to share? Councilmember Flora.
Yeah, I just wanted to add thank you to everyone that came out tonight, and thank you to everyone who has enthusiastically participated in our recent development projects. I think what happened here tonight really shows that if we're all working together, we can make good decisions for the city.
Councilmember Davis.
I just wanted to say in her swan song meeting tonight, Danielle Sitzman, we really appreciate the work that you've done. I know that this is your last council meeting. Oh.
Wipe that smile off your
It's not my last council meeting, it's just unfortunate my last meeting with you.
Well, we wish you well in your future career in Iowa City. Thank you.
Councilmember Cram.
Two things. We have a reminder, tomorrow night we'll have a Ward 3 meeting at the Community Center at 7 p.m. All are welcome. And secondly, I just want to give a handout and accolades, if you will, to Chief Hadley. He always keeps us informed about what's going on in the city. Enforcement-wise, good, bad, ugly, all of the above, and we know just like that. There's never a question about second guessing or anything. He always lets us know, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate that upfront knowledge.
It's always good.
Yeah, that's good.
Any other comments?
Can we invite the chief to make a comment about the fundraiser and Monster Day?
Sure.
So about a month ago, I got up and left finance and CDC meeting because I got a call from overseas. Missed the phone call and called back to the United Kingdom. It's extremely expensive to call the United Kingdom, as I found out on my personal cell phone. So if everything plays out good, April 25th, I'm sorry, May 25th is Big Monster Friday and also Alex's birthday. We're working out some details, Laura and I are, and we are going to get you a flyer and send it out through the business community and everything and have some kind of a Big Monster Friday. I will try not to have a purple gorilla. I'll get something different hopefully this time. I do believe the Friday before that, which is I believe the 17th or 18th of May, is our Coffee with a Cop, and I believe that Alex will be at Coffee with a Cop with us. So as soon as I get all that stuff put together, I will get it out to you. I did meet with all the chiefs and the Johnson County Sheriff yesterday. Kevin was good enough to get our flyer out to hundreds of businesses and residents, which I greatly appreciate. Every police department, the Sheriff's Office, and Highway Patrol are doing exactly what we're doing. The Northeast Chamber of Commerce is also helping me. Metro Chiefs, both sides of the state line, is putting this out. I talked to the Lee Summit Chief earlier this week, and the state of Kansas is going to put this out to all the fraternal order polices in every police department in the state of Kansas. So we're hoping to raise some money for Alex to continue to come to Kansas City and spend some time with us.
Excellent.
So as soon as I get more information, I'll get that to you.
Thank you. Chief, there's another coffee with a cop in 2 days, right?
Yes, there's one on Friday. I think I sent you all the flyer today. So, yep, thank you.
We'll be there.
All right, any other comments?
I do have one more comment. This is the bass I caught the other day out in the lake. So I'll share that with you.
Your head's bigger than that bass.
It's red, it's brother.
I think we have just one more council meeting before the new market will open on Thursday nights. And so Emily's been working really hard with the market team trying to get new vendors. If anyone has any prospects or leads on potential vendors for the market, let us know so we can pursue them.
All right, any other comments?
Yeah, I'd just like to also make one quick mention to keep Jim Hollinger from Fluffy Fresh Donuts in your thoughts and prayers. I guess he got injured and they've had to suspend business for a while and not quite sure when they're going to open back up or potentially if they're going to open back up. They've been a long time part of our business community, so just keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And when they open back up, Chief, I'm sure you guys will keep them busy. Sure we will.
All right, anything else? Okay, moving on. Next we have the mayor's report. Or I'm sorry, I have no report. City administrator's report. Do you have anything, Ms. Smith?
Yes, Mayor, just a couple of items. Just a reminder that we will not have a city council work session next week on the 25th of April. So we will be putting out the final 2019 budget schedule before the end of the week. Also, just a reminder that we have the spring intermission tree and plant sale. You had to pre-purchase your items, but if you were so inclined, please come out to the community center from 9 to noon this Saturday. There will be music and fun and lots of information about Arbor Day and other things. So, and then Councilmember Davis stole my thunder, but I did also want to publicly, you're fine, wish Danielle a farewell. This is her last council meeting with us. We will be having an opportunity to celebrate her contributions to the city tomorrow afternoon at 4 here in the City Council chamber. So I hope anyone who is available can join us for that. But Danielle has been here. She just celebrated her 11th anniversary. Well, it's getting ready to celebrate your 11th anniversary tomorrow with the city. And she has certainly been absolutely an invaluable member of our team here. And though many people won't know or recognize it, her contributions to the community are sprinkled throughout. And we certainly have appreciated your presence, your professionalism, and your contributions, and we're going to miss you.
Thank you.
Would you like I can do a quick update on the house fire if anybody would like that.
Sure, yes, absolutely.
Seeing the fire district here, I thought I should probably let you know. Our department would follow up on a house fire like that by making contact with the homeowner, letting them know that there's a building permit process that when they go to rebuild that they need to be in touch with us as kind of our opportunity to get ahead of them. In this case, there is an insurance settlement, and so we've also reached out to the insurance company to let them know that if damage is greater than a certain amount, they actually do need to put aside some money for us to hold on to until repairs are commenced. Sounds like that won't be an issue in this case. The homeowner and their insurance company are proceeding on to renovation and restoration. So if you drive by the property, you'll notice I think the porch has been removed already, so they're making progress and we're working with them.
All right, thank you. We do not have an executive session for tonight, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.
Hey, Nick, can you send